Hi y'all, it's Coach Becky from A Better You with Coach Becky. I often get asked, do I need a food processor? I have a blender, don't get me wrong, I love my high-powered blender. It does a lot. But today I'm going to show you some things that I use my food processor for. I use it to mix up breading for chicken fingers. This is a recipe from Wonderfully Made and Dearly Loved. This is the Mama's Bake and Fry mix. First I put the pork rinds in there and crunched them up, and now I've added the rest of the ingredients. I will not be using all of this today. There's plenty to store in the freezer for another day. And what I do with this air fryer mix, I portion out amount that I need. I coat my chicken tenderloin with yogurt. And then I dip it in the breading mix, and it's in the air fryer. Something else I use my food processor for is lazy lasagna from the THM cookbook. I'm distracted with the singing in the background. This is the cheese mixture for the lazy lasagna. And now I am going to add the spinach. I prefer using fresh spinach for this recipe. And as you can see, it does have a little green tint, but there are those in my family that are more apt to eat it when it's blended into the cheese mixture instead of having leaves in their lasagna. Having a food processor makes quick work for this dish. A peek at the lazy lasagna. Another thing I love using the food processor for is mixing up Superfood chocolate chews. This recipe is from the THM cookbook, page 383. My tip for this recipe is to use less water because it will get too runny to be able to roll it out. So here you can see that the batter, it looks dry enough, but then you pull out the middle, pull out the blade, and you see down there in the middle, there's still liquid. So we're just gonna incorporate that in there. And this is using 2 tablespoons less water than what the recipe calls for. Instead of pulling off little bits of dough and rolling them into balls, I put it in parchment paper. And I take my rolling pin and I flatten it, and then I cut them in rectangles, and it's more like a protein bar, and I don't roll them in gentle sweet. Now that I've rolled it out in between the parchment paper, I will cut them into strips. I also use less butter than what the recipe calls for, that way I can have a larger portion in fuel pull. This is a double recipe Superfood chocolate chews, page 383 of the Trim Healthy Mama cookbook. I will now refrigerate these a bit before trying to pull them apart. These have refrigerated for a while, and really it's the easiest to just cut it with a pizza cutter. So it's on parchment paper, and then also I'll be storing it on parchment paper in between because it is a sticky, kind of like a Tootsie Roll, but much softer. And these are delicious. I ended up adding peanut butter extract from Trim Healthy Mama and peanut flour to this batch, and that's one of my favorite ways to have it. But it's also good with chocolate and peppermint or chocolate and orange. Mix it up, lots of variations. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates, tips from Coach Becky.